What's up guys, Kudou here. Today we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy card game. Now this game is interesting for a myriad of reasons, but I think one of the most interesting things about it is the fact that almost nobody knows about it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like Final Fantasy has had the best reputation over the past 10 years, but Final Fantasy has quite the following, and it's got quite the history too. You would think that a Final Fantasy card game that was originally Japanese only, that the company decided to finally bring over here to America and print the cards in English for and give us our own sets for, would get a little bit of press, but no, apparently there's been no ads, no coverage for this game pretty much at all. So why isn't anybody talking about this game? Is the game really just that bad? Well, let's take a look. First, let's take a look at some of the cards. There are three main card types right now in Final Fantasy TCG Opus, as they're calling it here. First are your forwards. Your forwards are the main characters that you'll be playing onto the fields to actually attack and deal damage to your opponent. Yes, we're going to be looking at Squall, because Squall is from my favorite Final Fantasy game. Yes, I liked Final Fantasy VIII. No, I don't care that you didn't like Final Fantasy VIII. Squall is my bae, and this is my channel, so just let me have this. If you've played other card games, some things should look kind of familiar to you, like the number here in the top left is the card's crystal point cost. Crystal points are essentially mana from other card games, but of course, being the Final Fantasy universe, they are going to use crystal points for more flavor. Final Fantasy without crystals is pretty much Mario games without stars, so that's good. There is one very interesting distinction between crystal points and mana though that I'll get into later. There's a line above the effect text box that gives us a little more information about the card. This character is a forward, which you can tell from here and also from the fact that it has power. We'll get into that later. It's a seed, which doesn't really make a whole lot of difference, but I guess it just gives the card some more flavor. And it's got two smaller keywords, DFF and VIII. Obviously, anybody who's played the Final Fantasy series knows that this is the city of Final Fantasy because that's where the artwork comes from, and it comes from Final Fantasy VIII. Most of this is for show, but there are some situations where a character's attributes such as being a seed member or being from Final Fantasy VIII will come into play. Just below that is the effect text box. Just about every character in the Final Fantasy TCG has an effect text. In fact, I don't think I've seen any that don't. Most of the effects will just very plainly tell you what it is you have to do. If you have to pay any crystal points, it'll tell you there. If you have to rest the card or dull the card, as it is here. Get it? Dulling the cards, its crystals and gemstones are so clever. It'll tell you that too. For the most part, the effect texts are pretty easy to understand. There's not a whole lot of special symbols and stuff. There is one special symbol that we'll look at in just a second. The last bit of info we have is this number here, 6,000. All of the characters in the Final Fantasy TCG have a power between 1,000 and 9,000. Probably the most confusing thing when getting into this card game is realizing that this number represents both the power and the health of the card. I'll get into that a bit more later, but just kind of think of this as 6,000/6,000. Some effects look a little bit different from others. The names will sometimes be a different color, and there will also be a small red S in a white box. That means that in addition to paying the card's regular cost, which is 1 blue crystal point, as you can see next to the red S, you also have to discard a character from your hand with the same name. It's a limit break. Everybody who plays Final Fantasy knows this. It's a limit break. The neat thing about this is it doesn't necessarily have to be this Squall that we discard. If we wanted to pitch that other Squall we saw, for example, then that would be just fine. In addition to forwards, we have backup cards. Backups can help us generate extra crystal points every turn and also give us some kind of useful ability we can use. For example, if we decided we didn't actually want to dull this to get 1 red crystal point, we could instead dull it, pay 1 red crystal point, and then discard this card to deal 1 forward 4,000 damage. It might not sound like much now, but versatility matters. It's also easy to tell a forward from a backup because backups don't have power. The last type of card we'll look at is God dang Vanille! The last kind of card we'll look at is summon cards. Summon cards are simple. You pay their cost, use their effect, they're done, they're gone. You put them in the break zone, and that's it. They can be used whenever you want to, in response to any effect you want to. They're pretty versatile. So let's take a look at some gameplay. This is the field you'll be playing on. Again, everything here should be pretty simple. You have a deck zone, a break zone, which is your discard pile, and a place to take damage. I can already feel some of you rolling your eyes from there. Just trust me, okay? I understand. Yes, you will be taking damage the same way you do in a game like Vanguard or Weiss Schwarz or any other Bushy Road game. To be fair to this game though, it came out, I want to say like 6 or so years ago, so it was still when the idea was pretty fresh. Honestly, I'm not not the biggest fan of it here, but we gotta learn the rules, so let's learn the rules. The game is over when a 7th card is placed in your damage area. Start the game by putting your deck in the deck area. At the beginning of the game, draw 5 cards to make up your opening hand. If you're unsatisfied with your hand, you can rearrange the cards in any order you like and put them on the bottom of your deck to draw 5 new cards, but you can only do this once. During a normal turn, you'll draw 2 cards from the top of your deck, but if you're the first player, then you'll only draw 1. We'll assume in this game that you're going first, and we'll take a look at what your opening hand looks like. So we have some backups in our hand, but they require crystal points. We don't have anything on the field to pay for those crystal points with, so how do we get backups on the field? And this, ladies and gentlemen, this is where Final Fantasy is going to get interesting. In the Final Fantasy TCG, you can chuck cards from your hands to get crystal points. Every card can generate 2 crystal points of their same element. So for example, if we wanted to, we could chuck this Firion here for 2 red. Then we would have enough to play Black Mage because it only costs 2. Now once it's in play, we can start dulling it every turn to get 1 crystal point so we don't have to keep discarding cards from our hand. That's why having backups are generally seen as a good idea. This also creates Final Fantasy's probably best mechanic. Let's say we wanted to play this Auron here. It costs 6 crystal points, but we don't have a single backup in play. Could we then, hypothetically, discard 3 red cards from our hand to play it? Well, the answer is yes. Honestly, if we want to play it, we can just discard 3 cards from our hand to play it. There's no hard limit on when certain cards can come out. This is a very Buddyfight mentality. It's pretty much the idea that when you get a very powerful card in your hands, there's no limit on when or where you can play the card. You can just play it. So even the most powerful cards in the game can be summoned on the first turn, if you're willing to go -3 to play them. The check and balance here is that every card in the game can be very easily dealt with as well. You'd be surprised how many ways there are to deal with a character on the field. 9,000 sounds like a lot of power, but it's surprisingly easy to achieve. If you discard 3 cards from your hand to play this Auron, and then your opponent discards like 2 cards from their hand to play a card to get rid of your Auron, then you've gone minus. But the option is there. You can play any card you want to in your opening hand as long as you're willing to discard enough cards. One more thing to take note of is you don't have to discard all of the same CP. To play a card, only one of the paid CP has to be the matching color. So for example, we could discard 1 green card and 1 yellow card to play this yellow Kefka. Alternatively, if our Enix, the yellow card on the right, were on the field, we could just dull it to get 1 CP and then pay with whatever we want to for the other 3. 2 more notes on playing characters. If you play a forward, you have to wait 1 turn before using an effect that causes you to dull them or attack with them. There's an ability that lets you get around it, but for right now, keep in mind that the regular rule is a character that has just been summoned cannot dull itself to attack or to use its effect. Also, if a character has a name, then you can only have 1 character of that name and play at a time. So in this example here, we can have no more Kate Sis because we already have 1 in play, but we can play another Dragoon if we want to because Dragoons are just a standard unit. I'd also like to talk a bit about attacking. When your main phase is over, you'll get the chance to attack with your characters. To attack with a character, all you have to do is dull it and declare that it's attacking. In this game, you cannot direct your attack at other characters. Every attack is going towards the player directly. Let's say my opponent has this 9,000 power Auron in play. They can choose whether or not to block Kate Sith. Blocking doesn't cause a character to dull, so hypothetically, if they did block with Auron, they would survive the battle and have a chance to block something else. Now would probably be a good time to go over the way that damage works. So you'll notice that my Auron has 9,000 power. That power represents both the amount of damage that I deal to other characters and also the amount of damage I can take before I'm sent to the discard pile in 1 turn. So for example, if I block with my Auron against your Kate Sith, then your Kate Sith would take 9,000 damage and go to the break zone, but I would also take 5,000 damage. So if you can find a way to deal 4,000 more damage to me this turn, then Auron is also discarded. Now at this point, let's say you decide to attack with your Dragoon. Well, now I have a choice to make. Auron's power is still 9,000, so even though I've taken 5,000 damage, that only affects how much power you need to actually kill Auron. What I can do is block, deal 9,000 damage to your Dragoon, but take the 5,000 damage back. That would be a total of 10,000 damage that Auron has taken this turn, and thus he would be discarded as well. Alternatively, I could choose not to block, and give you the 1 damage. I would be taking the 1 damage, but if at the end of the turn Auron is still in play, then that 5,000 damage disappears, so you would still have to deal 9,000 to him on another turn in order to defeat him. Now that being said, there is one more type of attack in the game, called a party attack. If you have two or more characters with the same element, they can attack at the same time, essentially combining their power. Now it's one attack of 10,000 power going towards my opponent. Let's say that Auron does decide to block. Auron has 9,000 power and has to split it between these two, so 5,000 damage to one and 4,000 damage to another. Now that the Dragoon has taken 4,000 damage, it's in the same position that Auron was in before. If it takes 1,000 more powers worth of damage, then it hits its 5,000 damage threshold and dies. This is still just considered one attack though, so I could avoid all of this and just let Auron not block and just take the 1 damage. Party attacks still just deal 1 damage regardless of how many members are included in the party attack. One last thing to note is there's no party block function, so regardless of how many characters your opponent is attacking with in a party attack, you cannot party up your defending characters to block the attack. When you take damage, it goes to the damage zone face up. A quick reminder that as soon as the 7th card is placed in the damage zone, you're declared the loser immediately, regardless of any ongoing effects. Some cards will have the words EX burst next to one of their abilities. This is an effect that triggers when the card is shown as damage. So when Jill goes to the damage zone, I can select up to 2 forwards and freeze them. Don't worry about what freezing means yet, we'll get on to it. Once the attack phase is over, you have one more main phase to play any cards or abilities you didn't want to in the first main phase. Once your second main phase is over, then you end your turn, and it's really that simple. Now that we know how to play the game, let's go over some of the elements. I'm just going to go over a basic overview, but there will be a chart up on the screen that you can read along to. Fire characters die really quickly, but they deal a lot of damage. Ice is about making it difficult for your opponent to gain momentum. Wind is normally about cheap, fast cards that come out quick and attack quick. Earth cards are mainly about being really defensive. It's hard to break their walls. Lightning is about really quickly neutralizing your opponent's biggest threats. Water is about drawing lots of cards and sending your opponent's characters back to hand. Your typical control element. Light and dark characters are special. You can put light and dark characters in a deck with any other element because you can discard any element to pay for them. However, you cannot discard them to pay for other cards. The downside here is you can only have one light and one dark character in play at a time. I'll leave a link to the official site where you can find this and also some other really neat resources if you're interested in picking up the game yourself. One other chart I want to look at are the special abilities. Now, some people are going to laugh when they see this chart because some of the effects look kinda similar to another magic-based game. Haste means that when that forward comes into play, it can still attack or use its abilities on the first turn that it's put in play. Brave means you don't have to dull yourself in order to attack, so you can attack with a character and then in the second main phase use its abilities, or still block with it on your opponent's turn. First Strike means that when your character is fighting against another character, your character gets to deal your damage first. So if two characters have the same power but one of them has First Strike, then potentially one of them can be taken out before they have a chance to deal damage back. Search lets you search your deck for certain cards. And finally, Freeze means that a character cannot untap during the untap step, or undull step? What is it called in this game? Active, of course. Because tapping them is called dulling, and standing them is called activating. You can't go halfway on things like this, okay? If you're gonna do the crystal puns, then take the crystal puns 100%. Shining, gleaming, undulling, any of these would have worked. Again, there will be a link to a page with this information on it, along with other information to help get you started. So here we are at the end. What do I think of the Final Fantasy TCG? The game feels a lot like you're playing a game like Vanguard or Buddyfight, and by the way, I just want to say that this game came out early enough that it might actually predate Buddyfight and Vanguard, but, you know, don't quote me on it. Anyways, it feels like you're playing a game like Vanguard or Buddyfight, which are meant to be very, very fast-paced games, but the actual mechanics of the game are set up to be kind of slower paced like Magic the Gathering. It was a challenge to adapt to, and I'm going to fully admit that it did feel really awkward the first time I tried to play a couple of test games. The thing about a game like Vanguard or Buddyfight is they're meant to be really fast-paced so that you can get a lot of games in at once. So over like a 30-minute stretch of time, you can normally play like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 in the case of Buddyfight games within that stretch of time. In slower games like your Magic the Gatherings, your Force of Wills, your Kaijudos, you're meant to build up small advantages over a course of time, and then once you have a big enough field, you wreck your opponent. That's just kind of how it works. Mashing the two felt a little bit unstable. Now, all of that being said, I have to admit, I kinda really love this game, like, a lot. If you can get past how awkward the game feels when you first start playing it, the game is a lot of fun. Like, there are lots of really powerful characters and stuff, and lots of really cool combos and abilities and all kinds of stuff you can do, but none of it feels so overpowered that there's nothing your opponent can do about it. There's so many ways to deal with overpowered characters and stuff that you really don't feel like you're being overwhelmed. Also, with 6 different elements to play through and all of these different Final Fantasy games coming together, there's a lot of deck variety out there that you can play with. Now, if you look into the game and you find out it's something that you actually want to explore and actually try out for yourself, then there's this YouTube channel called Josepher that I highly recommend. There are a few channels that talk about the Final Fantasy TCG, but overall, I think Josepher is the absolute best thing going on for the TCG right now. His videos are really well made, very high production value, you can tell he loves the game a whole lot, he's got really good ideas, and he's just a lot of fun to listen to, honestly. Even if I weren't interested in the FFTCG, then I would probably listen to him anyways, because he's kind of a darling to listen to. Of course, you can also play this game for free at tradecardsonline.com, so, you know, if you want to maybe learn the game do with Kudou-kun a little bit, then just check it out there, build a deck, and I'm right there on Facebook waiting for you, baby, come on. See if you can get past my Squall waifu deck, you know. With all that being said, I think we're going to wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like. Those things really do help us out. If you have any thoughts on the game, then leave them in the comment section below, along with suggestions on what you'd like to see me do next. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudou news. I also highly recommend checking out the link in the description below. You can find out how you can join the Kudou-kun Fan Council, which is a special place where you can come and play card games with me, other Kudou-kun fans, and you can just, you know, hang out, talk, do whatever. But more importantly, you can also vote on what kind of content you want to see next. If you want to see the Final Fantasy TCG get even more content on my channel, then you might want to check out the link in the description and give it some love. That's all for tonight, guys. Catch you next time.